Hola amigos de Wine News TV, les invito a conectar conmigo y con mis invitados en Wine News TV On The Go, un podcast que a su vez es un espacio donde aprenderás sobre el mágico mundo del vino a través de invitados de todas partes del mundo que nos contarán sobre sus proyectos para obsequiarnos de forma embotellada música, fuego y leones, como decía el gran maestro argentino Jorge Luis Borges en su poema Soneto al Vino. Hola amigos de Wine News TV, el podcast. Bueno, cerramos la jornada donde empezamos, en la que ha sido mi base de operaciones y mi casa Fox Run Vineyards, aquí en Seneca Lake. Por los pasados 5 días he estado explorando, conociendo esta región. Empezamos la primera de las entrevistas con Scott Osborne, presidente, copropietario de Fox Run Vineyards. Y ahora que cerramos, estoy con el enólogo Craig Hosbach. Did I kill it?
No,
I did a good
very
job.
good.
All right, great. So I got a chance to meet Craig that the day I got here, but then I had a crazy day and we couldn't sit down. That day I interviewed Scott, of course, not only for the podcast, but also for a YouTube video that we did. And I really just want to, before we get into the interview, let my listeners know how grateful I am for the opportunity of staying with the Osborne family and with the whole team here at Fox Run. It is, they make you feel like family. This is a great community. I see a lot of cooperation and a sense of community amongst, competitors. Because in other parts of the world, when you sell wine and your neighbor does the same, they're seen as competitors. But here, there's this sense that I get that people know that they either sink or swim together. So that's something great. How are you, Craig, this morning? Cold morning, right?
A very cold morning. This is typical January weather in this area. But I love what you said about sink and swim together. Since you've been here, have you already heard someone say a rising tide lifts all boats? That is our motto here as a whole, and that's how we view the industry. And, we all look at that. We will grow so much faster and get better so much faster if we work together and share information freely.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about your own personal story. Did you grow up exposed to wines? Were your parents wine drinkers? How did the wine bug first bit? How did it all come about?
So it all happened accidentally. In 2004, after leaving college, my brother was working at a local winery near where I grew up.
In New Jersey, right?
In New Jersey.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I had moved back home, wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and he asked if I could help out at the winery. Next thing I know, I was cleaning tanks. I was on the back of a tractor with a brush hog, mowing in the vineyards, mowing between vines. And at that point, taking out a bunch of vineyard posts because I had no idea what I was doing. And one thing led to another, and I thought it was really interesting. And I talked the owner into paying me very little to teach me how to make wine.
Fantastic.
And it worked out well for him.
This is New Jersey. Which grapes were they growing using vinifying?
Back then, it was all hybrids and a couple native grapes. So Céval, Liamio, Frontenac, Marquette, Cayuga, Concord, Niagara. Maybe I'm probably missing a few. Baca Noir.
I've been telling this a couple of days now to my listeners that this is wine geek paradise, because these are grapes that you can only find here. You can find them in other parts of the U.S., of course. I think Minnesota, some of those other states, but not necessarily do they also grow great vinifera. So here you can come to the Finger Lakes and taste world-class Riesling Cap Francs and sparklers using the Champenois method or the traditional method, but also you have this funky, this geeky side where you can try hybrids and natives, and that's just fantastic. So how long were you there for at that winery?
I was there till the winter of 2008, and then went to another winery way up in northern New York, near Canadian border. I spent a decade up there working at 2 different wineries, but my passion was always the Finger Lakes and making Rieslings in particular. So in 2017, I moved to Finger Lakes, took a job at Hun Country Vineyards over in Cuca Lake. Had a lot of success there. And then in July of 22, I came to Fox Run.
That's fantastic. So you've worked here 3 harvests, 2 harvests.
3 harvests, that's correct.
22, 23, and now 24.
Correct.
How would you describe the styles of wines you make? Obviously, they're going to be conditioned by the grapes you have, the
Hmm.
vineyard, but I guess that just like each artist, because I consider makers artists, you're interpreting the weather, you're interpreting the soil, the grapes, the philosophy of the property, and also you are, in the case of Fox Run, which has been around for a number of years now, you're honoring a legacy and you're trying to maintain a style of the winery. But in your case, how would you describe the wines you make? Correct, Hosbach.
For me, I believe that 90% of the wine that I make is finished by the end of fermentation. I know there's filtering and everything else that has to get done, but I lock everything in at that point. My winemaking style is I try to keep a very um, aerobic environment, which is pretty typical during fermentation because of lack of oxygen. But I want to make my wines in a reductive manner, meaning lack of oxygen as well, and capture as much of the aromatics I possibly can. Some words that we use are esters and thiols, and these are volatile compounds, especially thiols. However, if I can retain some of that going into the bottle, then I'm maximizing that. At the same time, I want to create enough texture in the wine so it matches those aromatics and then also flavor compounds I've captured. It's really trying to make the most complete harmonious wine possible at all stages.
Let's see if that is the case with the first wine. All right, what do we have here, buddy? I love Riesling, and I want to hear a little bit about this one. This is not yet in Puerto Rico. We don't know if in the future that can happen. I don't know if it's just a club member or a members only wine, but I forgot to mention this at the introduction. These wines are available in Puerto Rico through Pan American Wines, and you can get them at Todo Vino, their store in Amelia Industrial Park. These wines have been featured in my TV segment, in my segment on Telemundo, and these are wines that I absolutely adore because they do reflect the cool climate that I've witnessed firsthand here. I had not been here, I had to come and see it, and I've been literally sleeping next to the rows where some of these wines are made, the vineyard, and it's fantastic. Okay, so what do we have here? Cheers.
So cheers. We have our 2023 dry Riesling.
Lovely
And
nose.
the way I look at Riesling is I like to layer it. So this is 3 different ferments. The 22 vintage was actually 5 different ferments and allows us blending options. And I believe by doing that, we're going to create different components, not just flavor, aroma. There's similar things you'll get from each ferment, but it's really about mouthfeel. It's about texture to me.
Mm-hmm.
So my fermentation process captures the aromas, captures the flavors, but what you do from there is where I'm trying to layer the wines. I'm trying to build them. Add a little bit of plushness to the mid palate.
Yeah, love obviously the aromatics, as you said here, white flowers. You get a touch of that stone fruit, lovely minerality coming across. This wine is still a baby. I know it's going to evolve and grow beautifully because you have that great combination of a sense of juiciness that I haven't tasted yet, but I know it's going to be explosive white fruit on the palate, but also that sensation of minerality that is going to have that drying saliness or salinity effect on the palate. Let's give it a whirl. Mm.
Do you see that texture?
Yeah,
Just basically all the way through the wine, long finish.
lovely texture. It's round, but in spite of that roundness and that generous, lovely white fruit, the acidity keeps everything in check, making this wine have that delicious desire to go back for a second and third glass. And it's bringing me back a lovely note on the finish of, like, I wouldn't say a green apple. It's green turning into yellowish because it's not tart. It's juicy. It's thirst quenching. It's very nice.
Thank you.
It's
Thank
very
you.
nice, and it's a wine that would pair beautifully with all different kinds of foods. I can only hope that this gets to Puerto Rico at some point, to our market, because we have the other Riesling that you guys make, which is a tad bit, has a little more residual sugar.
Our semi-dry,
The
that's correct.
semi-dry, exactly. This is gorgeous. For those listening who live near the Finger Lakes in New York, we have a good number of followers there. How much does this cost here at the store? If you have an idea, this wine.
This goes for, is it 18 retail. I think it's 18 retail.
Wow, fantastic, fantastic bargain for a delicious white wine. And if you have not done so, come to the Finger Lakes. You don't need to get on a plane and go to Hungary or Austria or Germany to taste cool climate wines. You can get in a car and drive 5 hours from New York City and get to your own state and try New York wines from Vitis Vinifera. These are fantastic. So I was telling you off camera, I know that you have a Lemberger here. Last night we had the honor and privilege to have dinner with Scott and Ruth Osborne at their home, lovely home. And he opened we started with the sparkler, the Method Champenois, the Blanc de Blancs, I think it was. It was delicious. Then we moved on to a lasagna, gorgeous lasagna made by Ruth. And Scott had a treat. He brought out a Cab Franc Reserve from 2010, a 50-year-old wine. It had held up beautifully. It was a very, very gastronomic wine. I think it had 12% alcohol. It reminded me of those old Bordeaux wines that I've had that were made in the 60s or 70s from the last century, when wines were meant to be second fiddle to a recipe, to food, and not necessarily were made to compete with the food. And then he opened an Old Vine 2013 Lemberger. So it's going to be really cool for me to taste that same wine from a decade after, right? So we're going to go with this one. Tell me a little bit about Lemberger the Grape for those wine geeks out there that I know that are listening. And this is a wine, and I should say this because I'm going to be posting this interview very soon, that is going to be sent to Puerto Rico for a tasting with Mr. Scott Osborne himself in the last week of January. So they're going to send over some Lemberger. Tell us a bit about this grape.
So I love this grape personally. It's very diverse. It lends itself really well to a lighter style red wine. Also lends itself really well to rosé. I was working at a different winery when I first, I want to say discovered it, but first finally appreciated it. I was visiting Aguirre, Hungary, where they call it Kekfrankos.
Yep.
And this has a lot of different names throughout the world. In the Finger Lakes, it's called Lemberger or Blaufränkisch. Here, we prefer to go by the name Lemberger.
Easier to pronounce, right?
Yeah, it's debatable. I leave it up to winery owners and whoever's marketing the wine to choose the name.
Right.
I just make it.
Okay. Yeah, of course.
But so I really had an appreciation for it after that. And then when I came back here, the previous winery I was working at, I wanted to make a Lemberger. And then we started to make it as a dry red and use it in the rosé program. So when I came to Fox Run, it was a natural evolution. Now, in this case, every year we're trying to make 4 different wines, one for each quarter of the year, for our wine club and their wine club exclusive wines.
How does one find more about the wine club? Through the website?
Through the website.
Okay, through the website, which is foxrunvineyards.com. Okay.
And you're committing, the way the wine club works, you're just committing to buy at least a case of wine, minimum 3 a year, 3 per quarter.
Okay.
And what we want to do is make our wine club even more special, is have at least one wine per quarter that's just for the wine club.
Exactly.
And we come up with ideas, and maybe they work, maybe they don't. If they don't work, we have a big enough portfolio, we can blend them away. They're smaller batches.
The reason that we just had is also for the wine club.
No, this is for everybody.
Okay.
Yes, this is actually in our full distribution, any states or
and also
other areas
it can be purchased here at the store.
That is correct.
Okay.
So the Old Vine Lemberger, we decided that we had vines at the time that were 27 years old on property, and they're down by the lake. And we said, okay, well, let's keep them separate. The term Old Vine was heavily used for Zinfandels and still is out in California. Doesn't necessarily mean it's better. We don't want to just use a marketing term. It needs to make a better wine. We decided to keep it separate, and we kept tasting it throughout the process. And we said, wow, this wine has more volume. It's just bigger. It is clearly different from all the other Lemberger on the farm. And we said,
deeper roots?
No, actually really shallow roots.
Oh, okay.
Maybe 18 inches, 2 feet.
Oh, wow.
And then you just hit a ledge.
Okay.
So the way the roots work in the vineyards down by the lake is they go down to hit that ledge and they go horizontal.
Oh, okay.
Where on other parts of our farm, they'll keep going.
All right.
So surprisingly enough, we're getting out of this, it's just a bigger wine. And we were really excited about it, and that's why we decided to make it a wine club.
I love the aromatics here. This is a gorgeous red crunchy fruit note to it, and then some herbs, some little bit of well, some spice, and then that leafy, which is not green, it's leafy, like fresh note to it. And this is a wine that makes me want to eat something. I don't know what to pair with, but it's a very gastronomic wine. Let's give it a whirl. Mm. It's crunchy. It's delicate. It's a tad rustic at the same time. It's drying and just satisfies satisfies the palate because it makes you want to go for a bite to eat. And this is going to pair so beautifully with all sorts of different kinds of things. This could even go well with salmon, with fish. I mean, it's one of those red wines that you can pair with fish. Not necessarily do you have to go the meat route. It can go with chicken, pasta. 12.8% alcohol, super manageable. This has way less alcohol than some of the white wines made in California. And this is the type of wine I was saying, half jokingly, half truthfully, that you can have a bottle and the next day you don't have a headache.
Fair.
It's a very very nice wine, gastronomic. Um, what other wines do you make here at Fox Run, Craig?
So we make quite a few, but our main focus is Chardonnay,
Hmm.
Riesling. Those are only two whites we grow on property. And then we have a lot of Lumberger Planet, Cap Franc, some Merlot, some Cabernet Sauvignon, and a little bit of Pinot Noir. And that makes up the majority of our program. We use those grapes in a lot of different ways. At this point, we're making 5 different Rieslings, I think. And then we bring in, meaning we buy from other growers, some Treminette, which is a Gewürztraminer hybrid,
Hmm.
some Cayuga that goes into a wine that's closer to our semi-dry Riesling in terms of sweetness.
Hmm.
And that's really about it. We don't really bring too much else in. And we'll supplement our program a little Chardonnay because we don't grow enough, and maybe a little Lumberger Cap Franc on years we need it because we've run out of room to plant any more vines.
Right. Before we wrap up, obviously you're working on the direction of Scott and the rest of the team, but anything that you can share with us that you guys are experimenting? Are you trying to? I'm sure that you're always trying new things and techniques and seeing how things can get better. But is there any special project X that you guys are working on? Something that we could see hitting the shelves in the near future or not? Or you're just working on the same labels to improve them? If you have a wine club, you're probably always trying to come up with ideas of what to do
That's
for them, right?
correct.
So can you share something that you're working on, or
Yeah,
is
so
trade secret for now?
no trade secrets. We're an open book here. You were able to try the Reserve Riesling 2023 out of tank.
Yeah, incredible.
That'll be a wine club exclusive.
Hmm.
We have a Gruner Veltliner
Uh-huh.
that will be new to our portfolio next year. That will also be a wine club exclusive. The assistant winemaker here, Angelica Lawler, made a co-ferment. And she did that using Riesling and Lumberger.
Oh, nice.
And she co-fermented the two together. And that will also be a wine club exclusive. And it's just meant to
And how does that smell, taste? Is it what?
very similar to just a lighter style red wine.
Okay. So I'm thinking Côte Rôtie or some of those wines where you mix Syrah and Viognier, and the white grape provides the acidity. Some of the, some of those aromatics, the feminine part of the wine, if you will. Super cool.
Yeah, a lot of fun projects we have. And then Angelica also has her Piquette program. And I'm not sure how familiar you are with Piquettes.
Not really. No, I have to come back for that.
No, it's okay.
I have to come back in June. I have an excuse to come
So
back.
they're low ABV, 6% around there, sparkling wines.
Very cool.
And it's, for people that want to be able to enjoy a wine without getting as much of the effects of the alcohol.
All right. Well, Scott is coming to the island in 2-3 weeks. Probably that will pave the way for your visit to taste with consumers down there. Thank you, Craig. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Garrison. Thank you to the Osborne family for their incredible hospitality. This has been 5 days that I shall never forget. This was my first time and hopefully not the last here at the Finger Lakes. Thank you, Craig. Thank you so much.
Eduardo.
Cheers. Gracias, mi gente, por su sintonía. Recuerden descubrir los vinos de Fox Run Vineyards. Los consiguen con Pan American y Todo Vino en Puerto Rico. Y allí donde usted me esté escuchando, vaya a su tienda y pregunte, ¿tienen vinos de los Finger Lakes? ¿Tienen vinos de Fox Run? son vinos de clima frío, son vinos maravillosos para comer y son vinos que están, si usted vive aquí en los Estados Unidos, en su propio país, no tiene que irse a buscar a otras partes del mundo. Estos tipos de vinos que son elegantes, minerales, gastronómicos y súper razonablemente de precio, la palabra que estaba buscando, razonablemente comerciados. Son bastante accesibles en cuanto a los comercios. Usted puede tomar el Riesling que tomamos hace un ratito, lo puede comprar en $17, que es un precio súper razonable por la calidad del vino. And the Lemberger retails for how much? Well, this is a wine club, but the regular Lemberger here,
22.
$22. $22 por el Lemberger delicioso. Así que, thank you so much, Craig.
Thank you.
Será hasta la próxima. Gracias por su sintonía. Recuerden suscribirse, dejarnos un comentario, compartir esta entrevista y lo más importante, recordar que en el mundo del vino hay espacio para todos y que lo que realmente es esencial no es el destino, la meta, sino el recorrido o el viaje. Será hasta la próxima. Adiós. Este fue el episodio de hoy. Recuerda dejarnos una reseña para que nos ayudes a crecer, suscribirte y recomendarnos con tus amigos amantes del vino. No importa cuán avanzado estés en el recorrido de enamorarte de aquello que decían sobre el vino. Son uvas transformadas en poesía. Aquí hay espacio para todos. Salud y como siempre, dale share.